Hi, I thought I'd go over the stuff we went over in class yesterday because some of it's, it's really fundamentally important to understanding how to do these layouts and to kind of becoming familiar with all of the various nuances of how you make pictures look good. It's kind of a big deal as to how we progress with layouts and later on with action pages. So I thought the first thing we would do is just go over everything we did yesterday in class. And I'm going to walk through this. Some of this might be repetitive to you if you're already familiar with it, but bear with me because this stuff is really important to understand. So, as always with Scrap Page, the first thing you do is you have to start a new page. So to start a new page, we go down here and there's a couple to pick from, but we've always been using the color background. So let's do that. Right now, we'll pick the color background. We'll go over here. You can choose from one of these elements over here in terms of the size you want. We've been using 8 by 10. Let's just stick with that. And portrait means it's vertical. Landscape means it's horizontal. We've been using the landscape orientation. And we just open it with white to start with. Okay. So now we've got the basic background for our layout. To that, next thing you do is you start adding content. Mostly that's always going to be your pictures. So let's pick a couple of pictures. Now, depending on your computer, you can pick them several ways. The laptops have a little X up here in the top that you can click, or a little empty box that you can click and it'll show an X in it. That means they're all selected. I'm working on my desktop machine, so the simplest way for me to do that is just to hold the control key down and start clicking on the ones that I want. Okay, so I want those 3 pictures. That's Sarah 1, Sarah 2, Sarah 3. All right, so let's bring them in. All right, so here come the pictures. Scrap Page aligns them up at the top. So now they're in. Now, as with any object in Scrap Page, if you select it, and you can then mouse down and drag it anywhere you want. All right, so once you've selected it, it's easy to move it around. If you mouse up, it stays selected, and you can always go back and grab it again. If you don't want that one any longer, you click on this one to select it, and then you move it around. Also, to make sure everybody understands, any of these corners, these little handles here, these little circles are grow handles. That means I can make the picture smaller or bigger by mousing down. Once an object is selected and these appear, just grab them and move them, and the mouse will then change the size of the image however you want. Even though we didn't do it yesterday in class, these little blue arrows on the corners, these little half circle arrows, they're the rotation handles. If you mouse down on them and move, you rotate the image around like so. All right. And again, when it's rotated, it'll grow as you want it to. However, if you say, well, I'd really like to get this thing back to 0. Well, where's 0? Well, the easiest way to do that is up on the top menu bar. You'll see that there's this little rotation icon up here. If you click down on that, one of the options is 0 degrees. So if you click on that, it moves it back to 0 degrees. All right, so there's our images that we're going to play with. Let's make these 2 a little bit smaller right now. I'll just put them down here for the time being. And move this one over here. Now, one of the other things we did was bring in a frame. All right, so under Add, again, if we go here to pull down Pictures, there was a frame that I gave you in the project folder, and let's open that. Okay, so there it is. Now this is an image. It's not something. By that I mean it keeps its aspect ratio or proportionality when you grow it. So as this one gets larger, this one gets larger proportional, so that the ratio of the 2 stays the same. That's so things don't distort. That would be just, let's move this out of the way for a second. That would be the same way as here. When I grow her picture, you notice she doesn't distort. The ratio of the right side to the bottom stays the same so that there's no distortion in her image. Okay. So let's blow this guy up and we say, well, gosh, I can't get it to be where I want it to be because if I make these even, like say that, and that, then I can't get this even. So you can induce distortion if you want to. And you do that by holding down the shift key while an object is selected. And if you hold the shift key down, now it can distort. All right, so once you got the shift key down, you move it over here to where you say, okay, I'm happy with that now. That looks like my sides are about even, and I'm just going to leave it sit there. All right. Now, I like to color it too. So while I've got it selected, up here on the top menu bar, there's a color wheel. This color wheel is used to color all the objects in Scrap Page. So if I select on this and I go in here somewhere in the browns, now to get into the browns, you move this little slider up and down, and you can see how the hue square out here is changing. That is, if you pick that as your main color, these are the hues from very dark to very light of that particular color you chose. So if I go into here and I say, okay, I got some brown stuff in here now. Let me pick a brown that's about like this. All right. And we also then said, fine, let's put that on there. So that colored the frame with that chosen color. Now also we changed the background. Okay, to do that, anytime you want to change a background, and you can change the background at any time during your layout process, you go up here to layers, and in layers, about the 5th one down is something that says change background. When you do that, that just brings up the color dialog again. I'm going to stick with the color that we chose, or that we use for the frame, but this time I'm going to put it on a standard texture. So I'm going to pick one of my standard textures, and I believe in class we picked this one. I think it was the SPTX Floret Grunge. SPTX, by the way, stands for Scrap Page Texture. So just so you know that they're one of the standard textures. All right, so if I check that, and I say, okay, let's use that one, and I open it, then I get this. All right, so now I've got this background. It looks a little overwhelming right at the minute, but don't worry about that. We're going to fix that. But before we worry about anything else, now that I've got this thing colored and positioned where I want it to be, I'm going to lock it. That keeps me from reselecting it, and it allows me to select anything that might be under it. Now, here's another trick that's coming up to talk about. Notice over here in the layer stack right now, I brought in the pictures first, and then I brought in the frame later. Objects line up in the stack. Whenever you bring a picture in, it is on the very top of the stack. Now, you may not want it there, but that's where it comes in because it doesn't know where you might want it. So to move it, there's 2 ways you can do that. You can select these images, like suppose I select this image right here, which is now under the stack. As you can see, it's behind her image. Her picture is behind the frame. You can select it and you can move them up one at a time if you want, like so. And now she's on top of the frame, but this one isn't. It's still under the frame. So I can move them up individually one at a time like that by moving them up either one position in the stack with this arrow, or all the way to the top with this arrow. For example, if I select this picture here, which is under the stack, and I tell it, hey, I want you to go all the way to the top. That is, you're going to go past these 2 layers atop of it right now, and I tell it, go to the top. It does. So you can see that it is now over the frame, and it is also over this image. Okay, and it's over that one, which is actually now, if you look at her, she's at the bottom of the stack. Now you can select these things either by selecting them here or by selecting them over here on the layer stack. Now, if I want to move this image or this frame down, I can only do that if I unlock it, because right now I can't even select it. I click on it, nothing happens. I can't select it over here, I can't select it over here. But if I unlock it, then I can select it. And now I'm just going to tell it, I want you to go to the bottom. Okay. Once it's on the bottom, I'm going to lock it in place again. All right. So it's now the bottom of everything. So if I move these around, you can see they all lie on top of the frame. All right. That's where I want them. Now, the first thing we did in the class, I think after this, is we kind of sized her to fit part into the frame the way we might like. You can see right now her image doesn't fit into the frame particularly well. But if you right click, this is going to give me the option of doing a random crop on her. So I'm going to random crop by setting this thing about, like something like this. Maybe just, I want it to fit in this frame, but not completely. So I'll crop it, and we'll tell it, okay, I can grow you up now from there. So let's do that. We'll grow her up about like so. Now, she's on the top now, or she's above these guys, or was selected above them. So you can't, here's what I mean. If she's selected, you can't select this lower image by clicking here. You got to click outside of that selection rectangle because she's already been selected. To select her, to select somebody else, you have two options. One, you can select on that object away from that grow handle, like so. Or if she's selected, all you have to do is click somewhere like on the background, or some object that isn't hot, like the frame, that can't be selected, and that will deselect her. Now you can select this. All right, so let's grow her up a little bit here. Something maybe about like so. And we'll do the same thing over here. To make these things sort of match, what we're going to do here is tell it, hey, I want whatever this image is, I want you to be the same height. You make her be the same height by going up here on the second menu bar, and you're going to, or toolbar rather, and you'll see something called match. This arrow here is a side to side, makes it the same width as the previous object. This one makes it the same height as the previous object. So I'll make it the same height. Now, wherever this one was on the top, I want to get this one aligned the same way. And you do that then by going to up here again on the second toolbar, and there's something called align. This up arrow aligns it to the top. Okay, so now they're at the same top. And side to side, you have to do that yourself. The way you do it, though, is when this guy is selected, on the up, down, or right, left arrow keys on your keyboard, if you pick the left arrow key, you're going to see that you can move this guy along like so, all right? And you get it to where it's got about the same offset as the other one, all right? So now we got these pictures kind of arranged. I mean, the next thing we probably want to do is maybe put some frames on here, because frames make things stand out. Let's move this out. We'll give it a frame of about a 7. You'll see that the frame grows out in gray to show you where it's going to be. We'll color it by, let's just pick white. So now it's got a white frame. And we can then select these other images and match them to that frame just by clicking on them. And we'll click on that one and match it. So now we've got matched frames all the way around. Okay? So the next thing to do is then perhaps to shadow. Before I do that though, right now you can see the background showing through here. That's not particularly attractive, I don't think. I want to put sort of a matte finish or a matte behind this frame, because on a lot of framing you do mattes. So let's add to do a matte, I'm going to go up here and pick a color panel. I'm going to add a panel, and I got to resize this thing so that it is bigger than the inner side of the frame, but smaller than the outer, because I'm going to want it to hide behind the frame. Okay, now I'm going to go up here and pick a color again. We had picked these gray, these tan colors, so I picked something that's in there. You know, again, you can change this anytime you want, and right now I'm just going to pick that because you know, for just as a starter. If I don't like it later, I can change it and make it different. But to get a matte finish, let's go in here and pick a standard texture. One of the ones that work out pretty well usually is down here, and it's called patches. If we pick a patches 2 or 3, it's just the degree of the patch that you're going to get. We open this up and let's see what we get. Yeah, okay. So now this looks sort of like a nice little matte finished or matte that would be behind a frame. So I want this actually now to be behind the frame. Right now it's on top of everything. As you see, it came in here on top of the stack. So it lies on the very, very tippy top of everything. I don't want it there. I want it to be on the bottom. So let's select it and click this arrow and move it to the bottom. So now it's down there on the bottom. I like where it is. I'm going to lock it in place. Okay, so now the mat is behind the frame and behind all the pictures. All right, so let's now start applying some shadows. Let's go here and select her first, and we'll move her out here to, this is subjective too. It's how much do you want? Let's put it out at about a 7 and maybe somewhere around, 110 or something like that. All right, so that gives her a shadow. If I'm happy with that shadow, I'm now going to apply that shadow to each of these pictures just by selecting them and going up here and matching to the previous. Okay, so that put the shadow on there. Now it would be nice if the frame had a shadow also, because it looks sort of flat laying out there. It also doesn't show any shadow on the inner side of it up here. But to do that, I have to unlock it. I can't select it right now. So if I unlock the frame and select it and tell it, hey, match to the previous, and it does, and now it gives itself a shadow. I'll go back here and lock it again. And there. That is basically the layout we did in class yesterday. As you can see, the shadows really stand things off. They give it a dimension look. Again, if you didn't like the background, you can change it. I mentioned that earlier, but anytime you want to change the background, if you say, I think that background's too bold, take it down. And if you don't like that texture, pick a different one. Pick this texture, for instance, and tell it, okay, it's going to now do some computations. It has to compute the whole image all over again, but now change the background like such. If you don't like that one, which I don't find particularly attractive for this layout, you can go in and pick something else. Go under layer, change background, keep that color, and let's pick a different texture. We'll pick, why not pick Grunge 7 and see what that looks like. And like I say, you mess around with these things until you find something you like. So, yeah, that's not too bad. So let's leave it at that. All right, so that's an 8x10. You take it up to Walgreens or Costco or wherever you want to go. Have it printed and put it in a solid frame, into a physical frame. Hang it on your wall, and there you are. Okay, or you put it in a photo book or whatever you want to do with it. By the way, to do that, under page, if you go down here, there's a item down the list that says save layout as JPEG. That gives you the option of saving it as a full size, which you usually do if you're going to have it printed. So you would then go here, tell it it's now going to compute a high resolution of that layout, and you tell it where you want to put it, say in your documents, and you call it project layout. I'll just call it that. Project layout. And you tell it to save. It now saved it as a 300 dot per inch JPEG image. And if you go under here into your Explorer or Windows Explorer, you'll see here if I go under, I'm under my games right now, but if I go under my documents, wherever my documents are, let's close up a few things here I got open. Go to documents and tell it what was the last thing I did. There's project layout. If you open it up, that's the image we just did. That's the one you would take up to Walgreens to get printed. So I hope all of this was not too boring, but I just can't stress enough the importance of knowing how to do these fundamental things in Scrap Page until they become second nature. It makes your layouts be much faster and much simpler. And as we progress to doing more complex things, you'll fully understand why we went through all this multiple times. So till the next time, this is Dave. I may or may not be here next week because of my daughter's pregnancy. She's next Thursday would be one day past her due date, so I might be in New Haven, Connecticut. But if I'm still around, we'll have class again next week, and we'll go over some more detailed stuff then. Okay, this is Dave for now. Bye bye.